Good morning and welcome to Shattering Myths, the program that's devoted to those of you who are open to the realization that all of the world's religious, political, economic, and military institutions are corrupt, rotten to the core, even counterproductive. It is amazing that on this anniversary of 9/11, that Americans are still clueless as to what happened, and that everything America has done since that day has been counterproductive. Kirk, it's a sad reminder of our collective ignorance.
They still don't get it.
No, and as a matter of fact, you could not have a more telling affirmation that the world is clueless as to who perpetrated 9/11 and why than to take in the first million of what will be 10 million Muslims from the Islamic Middle East, which is ravaged by war, into Europe, which is currently at peace, but will soon feel the sting of those they have brought in.
Yeah, that's been a striking revelation to see this happen, just because it puts all the pieces together on how all these future prophecies, near future prophecies, will take place and how they can be accomplished so easily.
Can I get a I told you so this morning? You're fully empowered to say, nah, I don't recall you saying that if you don't recall me saying it. I personally recall saying this about 20 times. I predicted, based upon what I was reading in Yahowah's testimony, what I was reading in newspapers back as far as 10 years ago, that the Torah-less one of the last days and of the new world order that is imposed in the last days, a time that begins just 11 years from now, in the fall of 2026, that it will be a blend of three things. There's a lot of people that look at Babylon and don't see Babel, the Hebrew word for Babylon, in Babylon. They don't see Baal.
No.
And Babel is in Baal.
Right.
Ba means in and with, and BL is the base of Baal, and Baal is the Lord. He's Satan. So they don't see in Satan and associated with Babel, even though there is the whore of Babylon that is defeated in the last days of the tribulation. They don't see Bible in Babel, even though it's the same word. They don't see Babel in the name of their God, the Lord, but yet he's there. And what I predicted was that this lawless one, this Torah-less one, this man of anarchy and deception, this anti-Semitic one, this one who is predisposed to war, who will speak of peace and who will engulf the entire world in war, that he won't just be a socialist secular humanist. He won't just be an Orthodox or Roman Catholic Christian. He won't just be a Muslim. He won't just use the Pope and his church. He won't just use imams and Muslims. He won't just use the media and academia in lockstep with political correctness. He's going to blend all three. And isn't that what we're witnessing with the incorporation by socialist secular humanists of Muslims into the West?
Absolutely. I can say that you've said that for almost 8 years.
Yeah. You also see it in how the Pope talks about Islam and stuff like that.
Yesterday's report,
the way he talks about it, they're already starting to mix there. So.
Right. Yeah, it was so obvious when reading Yahowah's testimony that would be the case. I think that the driving force is going to be socialist secular humanism, because it's the most dumbing. It has a greater effect to dumb people down and to cause them to fall in line, to acquiesce their freedoms, to act as a collective, and to not question anything, to refrain from exercising good judgment, and to accept lies in the name of political correctness. So I still see political correctness and socialist secular humanism, the religion of Merkel, who is leading this charge. The political stance is a dominant force, but they're going to be in lockstep with Catholicism and Islam, and they're all going to blend together.
Yeah, they'll all move their positions to, there won't be three. They'll all just blend. Perfect word. I mean,
the puppeteer of all three is the same.
Mm-hmm. Satan.
Baal, Satan. The Lord. Exactly. And also economically, I mean, we're moving towards a feudal condition, a fascist state, and it's back to lords and serfs.
Yeah.
So it's exactly what the world is witnessing now, is this integration of the world's three greatest religions. And greatest, when I put in religion greatest, I mean most popular. There is no such thing as a good religion. They're all rotten. So, but Christianity, Islam, and socialist secular humanism. But there is a fourth candidate in all this. You guys know what that is? Do you know who the actual founder was of communism, socialist secular humanism, and actually the founder of political correctness?
Oh, that's what's his name?
Adam Weishaupt.
Adam Weishaupt, yeah.
Right, and perpetrated and promoted then by Karl Marx and Lenin. They were what race?
They were all kind of Jewish, weren't they? I know Marx was.
Who provided almost all of the credible text for the Quran?
Oh, that's Jewish again.
Yeah, the community that Muhammad's mother and father came from, it was 2/3 what race?
Jewish.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question about that. When they gave Muhammad the Talmud,
right?
Were they speaking in Arabic or were they speaking in Hebrew?
When they were at that point they would be speaking. They could have communicated in Arabic. They could not have recited it in Arabic because written Arabic didn't exist at the time. But they would have recited their Talmud in Aramaic. And Aramaic is very similar to Hebrew, and Arabic is based on Hebrew.
Yeah. So was Muhammad at least partially Jewish?
Yes.
Would he not? I would think he was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he was. His mother and father both came from a community that was 2/3 Jewish. Now, in fact, the community was called Yathrib.
Yathrib. Mm-hmm.
Named after not only Yahudi Jews, but their God, Yahowah. The founder of the Christian religion, what's that fellow's name?
Paul.
Yeah. And Paul was what race?
Jewish.
Yeah.
He was Roman and Jewish, but Jewish.
Yeah, and what was Paul trained, Roman by citizenship, Jewish by race, what was Paul trained to become? A rabbi. And it was rabbis that read Muhammad's, the Quran surahs that gave the religion the little credibility that it actually has, that Muhammad bastardized to make part of his Quran. So what's the common denominator in all of those religions?
Rabbinical Judaism.
So there is a statement that Yahowah makes talking about the false prophet. The false prophet is different than the Torahless one. The Torahless one comes from the intersection of the Roman and Alexander the Great's empires. The bullseye between those two, the furthest that Alexander ever got was Macedonia. Furthest northwest that he ever got was Macedonia. And as you move east, the Roman influence begins to wane beyond the coastal cities of what is now the Mediterranean coast of Turkey, and then down, of course, through Egypt and to province of Yahowah, and they did have some intersection there. But the most likely intersection would be Macedonia. In fact, it's the only country that qualifies for Daniel's prophecy of both being a new country. It was founded during the breakup of the combination of Czechoslovakia, but this was actually Yugoslavia is where it came out from, is the breakup of Yugoslavia. And so it's a very recent country. It's a very small country, both in size and population. So it's the only country that actually qualifies for the birthplace of the Toralist one. So the Toralist one is going to come from that country, and he's going to blend what we're seeing today, socialist secular humanism. He's going to be educated in a socialist secular humanist institution. His father will most likely be Muslim. His mother will be Orthodox Christian. But the false prophet, he's from the land.
Yeah, he's Jewish.
All right. So there's going to be a rabbinic influence in the religion of the New World Order. So there's going to be a rabbi that's going to be seen as the ultimate ecumenical leader. He's going to be like that nimwit of a California preacher, Rich Warren, that has written a book called Chrislam. And he is going to be seen as this great uniter by blending Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and socialist secular humanism all into one religion.
Have you ever heard on the media so much about getting along, the coexist stuff that's going on right now?
Oh, I know. Yeah, because of the influx of Muslims into Europe. That's why it's being presented that way. In fact, all the socialist secular newspapers are running ads about individuals that are, have been studying German for a month and now can say their own name in German. You can say, I can say my own name in German too. It's Craig Wynn.
Yeah, correct.
I can say your name in German too. In fact, your name's really easy because it actually has it sounds German. Yeah, right.
I can say everybody's name in German.
Yeah, because names don't change.
He's the smart one.
And by the way, the guy's ambition, according to Los Angeles Times, is to be a cell phone repairman. Have you ever seen a cell phone repaired? If you're going to repair a cell phone, it would cost you more money than buying a cell phone. Do you know they give cell phones away because the money is not in the cell phone? They make the daggone thing so cheaply in China that most cell phones, unless you're buying the latest and greatest, are free. Well, what they want is the monthly subscription. He's going to be a cell phone repairman. Good grief. When we return, we're going to turn our attention to Torah and what Yahowah had to say about this upcoming invitation. So Yahowah is presenting something to us, Kirk, that gives us a context for the time and the nature of the Torah harvest. So I'm going to just bring us up to speed with where we were in Yahowah, and then I'd like to jump into Kara, into the heart of the Torah, to consider this upcoming festival. Now, there are some people who may begin to celebrate it on Sunday at sundown. There's the tiniest sliver of a new moon of the 7th month, and I think that it is more likely that a renewing moon will be visible on Monday at sundown, which is when I'm going to celebrate. It is a Shabbaton, so it is a day to rest and reflect on what Yahowah is offering. So this is the statement. It says, woe, alas, declaring a warning regarding an extreme lack of understanding and the prevalence of delusion, to the presumptuousness, the arrogance, and the conceitedness of the leadership of the intoxicated of Ephraim. And we know the intoxicated means those who lack reasoning, whose judgment has been impaired, and Ephraim represents institutionalized, broad-based religion and political schemes, religious and political schemes. So then, speaking metaphorically now, or symbolically, so then the flower's desirability and honor foolishly fades away. Its attractiveness, which was beneficially by way of relationship, was first and foremost a valley of olives, will be overcome and be struck down with inebriation, with intoxication, with an inability to exercise good judgment. The flower is part of the plant, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Most desirable, most beautiful, most important part of the plant in terms of reproduction. And so it says, this plant's still rooted in the right place. It's still a plant. It's just no longer able to reproduce. It can no longer conceive life. It's no longer attractive. No, it's ugly like a weed. And so that's the idea of something that was once in the right place, thriving, but no longer is. This is unlike the Gentiles, unlike Babel, for example, that has always been in the wrong place, always been undesirable, that you can go from Babel to flowering if you leave Babel and accept the Yahowah's Torah instructions. But in this particular case, these folks were in the right place, and they became diseased and gave it up foolishly. Foolishly fades away. Yeah. So then he says, so then the flower's beauty and desirability and honor foolishly fades away. Its attractiveness, which by way of the relationship was first and foremost a valley of olives, will be overcome and struck down with an inebriation, with a false spirit. The valley of olives, Kirk, what is that a metaphor? This is all symbolic. What's that symbolic of?
Oh, the valley of olives, that's the nourishing, the set-apart spirit, the olive oil, the enlightenment. And the valley is referring really to that area, I assume.
And to a conduit, a place from which these things flow. In Jerusalem, for example, between the mounts of Moriah, Olives, and Zion, there are 3 valleys. And so from those mountains, the Mount of Olives, the Mount of Zion, which is the signpost on the way, the spiritual mountain, which is, by the way, where Yahowah provided his spiritual guidance as to what is going to occur in the last days and where he is returning when he comes back as spirit. That's why it's the Mount of Olives, folks. And then Mount Moriah is to revere Yah, and Yah reveres, which means that's the place where Yahowah established the covenant with Abraham, the place where he fulfilled the first 4 Moed Mikra. On our behalf to establish the benefits of the covenant. And then you've got Zion, which is the signpost along the way. The Torah is the signpost along the way. And there's 3 valleys between the 2. That's the place from which the Spirit provides nourishment and enlightenment. That's what he's talking about here. So he says, pay attention. One who is restored by being uncompromising and is also steadfast. He is adamant and inflexible, and he's the one that approaches Yahowah. So God's saying that this idea that you're a flower that has faded is because you accepted the wrong kind of fertilizer. You were a trindle, a part of a vine that goes where it doesn't belong. Maybe the sun is a little brighter over there. Maybe the grass is a little greener over there, and you go where you don't belong. And God's saying, no, be inflexible, be strong, be adamant, be steadfast. If you're steadfast, if you pay attention, you're going to approach Yahowah. Pretty simple. So Yahowah makes it very clear. You want to approach him? Stand up, henna. Pay attention, henna. Look, behold. One who is restored is so by being uncompromising, by being steadfast and adamant and inflexible. They're the ones who approach Yahowah. Then Yahowah says, then I love this because it's always quid pro quo with Yahowah. In a manner similar to a downpour with hail, a storm which separates and divides, like a flood, like a great and powerful flood, he will wash away. What's happening in Europe right now? We have a tsunami, a flood of Muslims, don't we?
I want to ask you something. I wanted to, if I may, I don't want to get off track, but this is real close. Remember in Yahowah 7, where Aram has plotted against the Yehuda, and he says, and he joins with Ephraim, and they do their little evil plot together. Aram, of course, is Damascus, Syria, the heart of the Caliphate, which became the heart of the Caliphate. The Ephraim, now you may not buy this the way I do, but I've studied pretty much. The Ephraim is nothing more than symbolically is Western Europe and the United States. I mean, we have every characteristic the same way. We have now plotted with Aram again to destroy Israel. And the next line in 7:6 says, "Let us go against Yahowah and let us tear her apart, breaking her into pieces so that we can reign over her." If that ain't today's news.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me tell you about, first of all, when you speak of Damascus and of the integrated greater Syria, which is the caliphate now, which is really the center of the Islamic world. I don't think you've got any question that you've correctly identified that.
Okay.
Back when I knew 1% of what I know today, and I was beginning to translate the Hebrew prophets for the very first time. So this goes back 15 years ago. And the first thing I was trying to do was edit a chapter a friend of mine wrote from talking about the rapture from a Pauline Christian perspective. And he ended up quoting a great deal from a book, a prophet named Hosea. And I began to translate Hosea because the translations that he was citing, which were New King James and the New Living Translation, just didn't seem like they were providing accurate testimony. There was just something wrong with them. And so I began to translate them, and rather than editing my friend's book, I ended up discarding it. And because what I was learning in Hosea was almost mind-numbing for me. I mean, it was, and now it's mind-expanding, but at the time it was, oh my. And what I ended up writing is the byline for the translation. I have translated the entire book of Hosea, from beginning to end. And what I recognized that the book of Hosea was prophetic of the country that I lived in. It was Christian America.
Oh, we're it.
We're it. And now that's a bit prejudicial in the sense of I don't think there's any significant difference between America and Europe, and nor America and Australia and New Zealand, nor those countries and Japan, and to a large degree even China. That collectively, this represented what we refer to as the Western world, even though China obviously is not in the West, nor is Japan. But the fact is, it's what we call the Western world. It was the world apart from Islam that was being depicted. And so my line is that, so I wrote it, America reflected in the prophetic portrait of Hosea. So, and that was before I realized that Ephraim was wrong because he associated with the Lord, and that was before I knew that the Lord is Satan. And that Christianity, fascination with its Bible, which is Babel, which is the basis of Babylon, and it's the basis, it means with Baal, with the Lord, were synonymous, and that Yahweh's hatred of Ephraim was because Ephraim became political and religious. So, no, I agree with you. I think that what you're witnessing in that prophecy is this alliance right now between Islam and socialist secular humanism and Christianity in the West.
Well, I thought the interesting part was the following line where Yahweh answers the Ayatollah Khomeini, yesterday's comment, where he says, "Thus says Yahweh, this shall not stand and it shall not happen," when they were talking about they're going to tear them all up.
Oh, yeah, he said within 25 years. The Ayatollah says, that the Zionist regime will not exist in 25 years. Israel will be wiped off the face of the map. And these are the people, by the way, if you're a Democrat, like, for example, the last vote in favor of the treaty was just the ugliest woman I've ever seen. I'm going to sound like Trump now, speaking of somebody by their appearance, but and I'm actually not by their appearance. I'm actually referring to her character. The ugliest woman maybe in the world today is the senator from Maryland that was the last to jump on board. And the next day, that's when the Ayatollah said, we had a reason to go along, to play along with the Americans on the nuclear treaty, because there was something we wanted to achieve, and then he announced what he wanted to achieve within 25 years to wipe Israel off the face of the earth.
Right.
Congratulations, Democrats.
You did say one of the ugliest, right? Because have you met Hillary Clinton?
Yeah, well,
yeah. You can prove that everyone has political correctness. I mean, because Pelosi said in the commercial, she used the word Clinton and integrity in the same sentence. And
she was endorsing the integrity of Hillary Clinton.
I beg your pardon.
It was laughable. I'm glad you brought it up. But you're right. This is so just as Islam is being embraced by and used by the West against Israel, and that's exactly how they're using it. It gives the leaders of Europe and the United States the justification to do what they want to do most, sacrifice Israel. They know that the end game here is the elimination of Israel, and they despise Israel. All of them. And so that is what's being set up here. And so what God is saying is just like these Muslims are coming in like a flood into Europe, he says, in a manner similar to a downpour with hail, a devastating storm will separate and divide like a flood, a great and powerful flood. He will wash away. Now, this isn't the kind of washing that cleanses you with the set-apart spirit. No, that's all gone.
Not a gentle shower.
No. God's just going to wipe them all out. Just wash them all away. I mean, there is no way for him to establish Eden-like conditions on earth if there's any trace of religion. And we talked about this not too long ago, but this is all part of the message of Torah. If you look at Eden, was there a church there?
There's nothing there.
Was there a pope there?
No.
Was there an imam there or a mosque?
There's no.
A rabbi or a synagogue?
No.
Was there a Talmud or a Quran or a New Testament or a Bible?
No, just Yahowah's teaching.
Yahowah and his guidance and teaching to Adam and Chawah, a place of perfect bliss because there was no constitution, there was no state house, there was no army, there were no police. There was absolutely no trace of religion. And so God's going to wipe away all of that stuff. Cleanse the earth with water, the ultimate solvent. And when you've ever seen a flood when it comes through a community as to if you have a city and it's flooded with a violent flood, what's left?
It'd take everything downstream.
Yeah, man. There ain't nothing left other than land, right?
Then the mud falls on top of it, and you'd have to dig everything out if you want to find it.
Yeah, but if you leave the mud, that's really good fertile soil, and things grow.
Yeah. Back
to Eden. So that's what God's going to do. He's going to wash it all away, and he's going to do so. Folks, this is 2015. 2033 is when he's washing it all away. This is very soon. So it's going to happen within our lifetimes. He will establish a home for restoration, for rest, for settling down spiritually, to approach the land with his hand. So he is equating here the washing away of all traces of Ephraim, of religion and politics, of militarism. He's equating that with establishing with his hand a home for restoration and settling down spiritually. Well, isn't that what Eden was all about?
Certainly.
Isn't that what the 1,000-year celebration of Sukkah is all about?
Yes, the return to Eden.
Right. So isn't the single most important thing that Yahowah has to do for him to accomplish his goal for the 1,000-year celebration of Sukkah, of camping out with him, is wiping away all traces of religion?
Yeah, it's not going to be there.
So that's what he's saying here, is he's going to wash it all away, going to restore the earth back to the conditions that he established it. Is there any more important message for us to articulate than that on this upcoming Teruah?
No, that's there is only one automatic escape to And that's it, Teruah. I mean, the others you can turn then, but you got to live through that stuff, and most people don't.
Right. Yeah, that's the last out if you don't want to endure the tribulation. But the fact of the matter is that if you want to spend eternity with Yahowah, and you don't want to be washed away with your church, with your mosque, with your political party, with your military, with your patriotism, if you don't want to be washed away, you need to give up those things.
Yes, it's not a coincidence. It tells us the first letter in Teruah to stand upright.
Right.
And the next letter is where you're facing, listening to, responding to, seeing.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward.
Down the other day,
Yeah, and what's, Yahowah just began. He just said, stand up, look up.
Yeah.
Henna, the basis of the letter that's repeated in Yahowah's name, the Hey is based on Henna, and Henna means to stand up, to look up, to pay attention, to reach up to that hand. But God is going to restore the earth to the conditions found in the Garden of Eden. That is what the celebration of Teruah is all about. And for that to occur, the first thing he has to do is to wipe away all of the scum of religion and politics. Then Yahowah was sharing here what Ephraim is going to encounter. By and with animals on foot, going forth, proclaiming slanderous myths, militants embracing false testimony, those seeking to gain an advantage, those who besmirch and denigrate the reputation of others. They will trample the presumptive and self-important rulers. It sounds to me like Yahowah was saying that the jihadists that Europe is bringing in by the millions are going to turn on those who are currently their benefactor.
Absolutely, they will.
Yeah, these
history where they don't.
Yeah, these militants on foot, they're going to trample the presumptive and self-righteous rulers.
Merkels.
Yeah, the Merkels of the world. And you know it's going to happen. Islam is a religion that takes line to a religious good. It's moral to lie. It's moral to kill. It's moral to be a terrorist. It's moral to rape. It's moral to be a pedophile. It's moral to steal. And so, in Islam, they're going to turn on their benefactors. Islam is, the Muslims aren't going to give up Islam and integrate into those societies. Muslims don't do that anywhere.
No. They're not going to be a melting pot for the Muslims.
No, and so...
Who is in their right mind could read the sentence that you just said, and if you research and found and said, yeah, that's the Muslim credo,
right.
And that's what is taught in every imam, by every imam, every Friday.
Right. Or just read the Quran. It's what it says in the 8 to 9 surahs.
How can you get that and say that's something we should tolerate?
Yeah, that's something we should bring in. We should trust them to live by our laws, even though a pledge by a Muslim, a vow by a Muslim with a non-Muslim is not binding on the Muslim. And so, the Quran says that and so does the Hadith, that it's good to lie.
All criminals lie.
Right.
It's a criminal enterprise. Y'all got it. You hit the nail on the head with that one.
Read the 8th surah. The 8th surah is the first official act of the Islamic era, and it's Muhammad robbing a caravan.
It's okay.
There's no way to get around that. And he's not robbing the caravan to promote his religion. He's robbing the caravan to steal what doesn't belong to him.
Yeah. Same thing. I mean, lie's okay.
Yeah.
Who are you kidding?
That's right. So it says that they're going to trample the self-important, self-righteous rulers of those whose reasoning and judgment has been affected by the consumption of that which is intoxicating, of those who are divorced from God and estranged from the covenant as a result of being religious, Ephraim. So it will come to be that the bloom's appeal, its attractiveness, its fine ornamentation, and its place of honor will languish and wither, shriveling up, for having been played for fools. It was first and foremost a channel for life, for enlightenment, for nourishment, for healing, similar to the firstborn. That was the intent, but it's not that anymore. But then God gives us this Yahowah insight just before the summer fruit is ready for harvest. An awakening, a waking up at a time that grieving begins. Beneficially and relationally, he, speaking of Yahowah, will look upon and find delight in the one who is observant and who understands, according to the repetitive and restoring witness in the palm of his hand. The palm of his hand, the restoring witness in the palm of his hand. Did Yahowah actually put some testimony in the palm of his hand?
Yeah.
How about the 10 statements that he etched in stone?
Yeah. He wrote him with his hand, didn't he?
Right, yeah.
Huh?
And wouldn't the first of those say, you will not exist with any God other than Yahowah?
Exactly.
Didn't he introduce himself? I am Yahowah, your God who liberated you.
Now, I want you to be forever. Remember my name in this regard.
Yeah, and I'm the one who liberated you from institutionalized slavery in the crucible of Egypt. Isn't he the one that says that I will not forgive those who mislead into lifelessness, who devalue the importance of my name? Didn't he say that the worst thing that parents can do, that fathers can do to their children, is to corrupt them with religion? It's all there.
He did it all, didn't he?
He did. That's what he etched in stone in the palm of his hand.